Welcome to Miami. Bienvenido a Miami.
Bouncing in the club with the heat is on. All night on the beach till the break of dawn. I'm going to Miami.
Welcome to Miami.
You know, it's not always how you start a season, but rather how you finish it. In the case of the 2017 Miami Hurricanes, that couldn't be any closer to the truth. I mean, let's face it, the first 10 games, 10 victories. That's right, they look like college football playoff contenders, making it all the way to number 2 in the rankings. And that included victories over hated rivals Florida State and Virginia Tech, and beating the pants off of Notre Dame by 33 points. But then things looked a lot different the final 3 games of the season. They went south, including a stunning loss to the Panthers, a team that only finished at 5-7. And matters got worse in the ACC title game with a lopsided defeat to Clemson and losing in the friendly home confines of Hard Rock Stadium in the Orange Bowl to Wisconsin. So a 3-game losing streak now entering 2018. Mark Richt now enters year number 3 at the U, but for him personally, year number 18 as a head coach. And he has a lot coming back for this Hurricane team. Some losses, but a lot of experience back. Mark Richt now enters year number 3 as the U's head coach, but year number 17 overall for the former Georgia guy. And offensively, of course, the big question he's going to have to face is the quarterback situation, which last season wasn't always consistent. Malik Rozier does come back in. You ever heard of that 1970s country song, When You're Hot, You're Hot, When You're Not, by Jerry Reed? Well, that might accurately describe the play of Rozier in 2017. On one hand, when he was hot, throwing for almost 3,200 yards, and he did have 26 touchdown passes and was integral during that 10-game winning streak. Now, when he was not hot, well, he wasn't. And, of course, part of that 3-game losing streak in which, during that streak, he completed barely over 40% of his passes, and for the year, by the way, had 14 interceptions. So he's going to be challenged this year to keep his starting quarterback job. Now, they could go with N'Kosi Perry, or they can go with their super true freshman in Jaron Williams, one of their top recruits from the latest Miami class. So really watch for that quarterback position for Miami this season. Running game, fewer questions there. You have Travis Homer back, averaged 6 yards per carry in what was nearly a 1,000-yard season for the Miami running back, and had 8 touchdowns. And Miami's pretty excited about this true freshman coming up. That is Lorenzo Lingard, an early enrollee out of Orange City, Florida. So they should be pretty good in the backfield. But the Hurricanes, yeah, they're going to be missing some key personnel at the wideouts. That means Braxton Berrios, you have to find a way to replace him. He's now with New England. And Chris Herndon was a 4th-round draft pick for the Jets, the tight end. But coming back, you do have Ahmad Richards. When healthy, he was effective, but he wasn't always healthy. Almost 450 yards in receiving, but did have 3 scores and averaged 18 yards per catch. Jeff Thomas, well, his presence is well needed. Had a pair of scores in 2017, but his big presence, 22 yards per reception. So having him back is a big plus. And Lawrence Cager, 3 touchdowns. He returns. And we mentioned earlier the vacancy at the tight end spot because you no longer have Chris Herndon. We'll see if Michael Irvin II, son of the playmaker, or if the freshman Brevin Johnson will start at that key spot. Offensive line, yeah, you do lose some all-ACC talent. Gone is Trevor Darling as well as KJ McDermott, but you also get some all-ACC talent back as well. And that does include Navon Donaldson, who last year as a freshman earned all-ACC honors at right guard. And you can look at the screen as far as who else returns. And this Miami squad, are there opportunities to get better offensively? Oh, yeah. They only registered 369 yards of total offense per game. That's not a lot. In fact, it was 3rd worst in the ACC and 97th in the country out of 130 teams. Hello? Got to get better in this area. But the most alarming stat that went against the Hurricanes, only 29% on 3rd down conversions, and that has got to be shored up because this offense has more talent than what those stats indicate. Now looking at the defense, and they definitely rose to the occasion. They kicked it in like a turbo booster, and they get 7 of the 11 back. This was a defense that was tops in the ACC in sacks with 44, turnover margin plus 13, that was 5th in the country, and 31 takeaways. That's right, 31 takeaways, which was 3rd in the country. So Miami definitely created opportunities. Even though you lose Trent Harris, your defensive end / linebacker, and even though pass rusher extraordinaire Chad Thomas has departed, you still get back Joe Jackson at the defensive end spot, 6.5 sacks for him. Linebackers, their strongest area by far. In fact, Shaq Quarterman's one of the best middle linebackers in the country. He returns, had 83 tackles, 2.5 sacks. Weak side linebacker, you get back Michael Pinkney, a senior, and the junior and Zach McLeod returns at strong side linebacker. By far their strongest area. Now, we mentioned that Miami created turnovers last season, but it didn't mean that all was well with the defense. The secondary looked a little vulnerable at times. In fact, giving up almost 220 yards of passing per game, which ranked them in the lower half amongst all 14 ACC schools. But you do have probably the best safety in college football, Chiquan Johnson, who has one thing that you really can't coach, anticipation. He just has that feel for where the ball's at, and he'll lay a lick on you. 96 stops a year ago and 4 interceptions. And the other safety comes back too in Sheldrick Redwine, a senior. So it's a veteran Miami secondary. And at the corner, you get a guy that had 4 interceptions, Michael Jackson. Yee-hee! Yeah, he's back, and he is a senior. The special teams for the Hurricanes, well, we'll see how this area does because you do have to account for place kicking, and they don't have Michael Bagley anymore, a kicker they could rely upon. They could be going with the freshman and the punting position, maybe a little bit better feeling, returning Zach Fiegels, of course, the son of the former longtime NFL punter, Jeff Fiegels. Now Zach entering his sophomore year, and you'll have Jeff Thomas returning the kicks, and you'll have the backup running back in DJ Dallas returning punts. Time to look at the schedule for the Hurricanes, and they'll start on a Sunday, the day after most teams will have already played their first game at Jerry World in Arlington against an LSU squad that has athletes but lately has not put it all together. I suspect a low-scoring game on September 2nd. The rest of the September schedule does not look challenging at all for the Hurricanes. Their next big contest appears to be the game against Florida State, but you get that game at home. This schedule really works out well for the Hurricanes. The tough stretch of it, though, will be in mid-November, back-to-back games at Georgia Tech and at Virginia Tech against the Hokies. Who knows if Malik Rozier will be the quarterback from beginning to end this time, but the running game will be good, the defense will be terrific, and it's a schedule that's fairly manageable. All ingredients for the Hurricanes to repeat as Coastal Division champions and rematch Clemson for the ACC championship. Don't forget, August the 29th, yep, that's the date that I make my selections for who will win the major conferences and my Final Four for the college football playoff. Make sure to check that out later on this very webpage. That's my look at the Hurricanes. We'll see you next time.